Alright, so you've been working on perspective. I want to do a little bit of a review before you have a quiz tomorrow. So for today's practice, okay, we're going to start from scratch. We're going to do a couple letters so that you can follow along with me, because I think some of you struggled on your worksheet with the writing your name, so we're going to practice that again, okay? So again, when we are doing perspective, remember it's space, so it's not just drawing a three-dimensional form, it's drawing things going far, far away. So we always start with the horizon line to separate the ground from the sky, okay? In this case, we are doing 1 point perspective. We haven't learned a 2 point, so we start with 1 point, and it's easier to put it right in the middle of the paper. That way we have a good space to kind of go around. So we're going to do a couple of different letters, okay? I'm going to do the word, we'll do panther, we'll do power, okay? So I'm going to just write kind of going around so you get an idea. I'm going to do a letter P, and I'm trying to draw neatly. I'm going to do an O. I'm going to do a W, an E, and an R. Now if you look, I kind of have it going around a little bit because I want you to practice doing some things on the left, some on the right, some above, and some below, and some on. Okay, so we're going to do panther power. We're just going to do power. Now I explained yesterday when you're doing this, okay, you want to use your ruler. It's really important in perspective that we are using our ruler and a sharpened pencil. I just broke, so I'm going to do this. So I'm outlining my letters to make them thick block letters, right? So I can erase that part. So now I have a nice letter P. Okay. For my O, it's pretty simple to turn it into a block letter. I'm just going to go around. Now for my W, I'm not going to a vanishing point just yet, don't get confused, okay? But I am drawing some lines. So I'm doing a W like this. Let's see, I think I'm going to scoot that one over. I'm going to scoot that over a little bit. There we go. Oopsie. So I have a little straight line going across here and then down. So remember, I'm trying to turn these into block letters, okay, so that I can draw them in perspective. The reason they have to be a block letter, can you guess why it has to be a block and we can't just draw from our line? Okay, we have to have a shape. So part of your notes, when we took notes, there's kind of that order of operations, right? So we started drawing first, we had our horizon line, then we did our vanishing point, and then we're doing a shape. We can't just do a line because you can't draw something that's not a shape into perspective, okay? So you have to have a shape to draw something in perspective. Okay, and then we'll be turning it into a form. So this is my letter E I've got here. And then I'm going to draw a line, line, line. And I'm trying to turn it into a 3D form here. There we go. So I've got a nice letter E. Okay, and then last but not least, my R. So I can do my curve by myself. I kind of want to make this a little bit straighter. Ooh, that goes out kind of far. I don't like that. We'll make it go down. Boop. There we go. Make this go down. And I'm using my ruler because it makes it clean. If you don't have nice clean lines when you're doing perspective, you can't see the actual line that you're trying to create. Okay? So I'm going to connect this to there. So I've got the word power. There we go. E-O-W-E-R for panther power. And I made little block letters. Okay? So if we are going to a vanishing point, doesn't matter where these are, our corners or our edges are going to go to the vanishing point. Okay? So if I'm right here, can I go from this corner to the vanishing point? Nope, because I would be drawing through my letter. but I can go from here. And I'm going to practice not going all the way so my lines don't look crazy. I know my ruler touches that, so I can stop. Okay, so let's practice that a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to go from the bottom part into my dot. Okay, I see another corner right here on my W. And then now my ruler's turning, so it's turning a little bit more and a little bit more. Now there's other places I can't forget. For example, I have to try these. No, I would go through, so I can't do that one, this one, okay? I can't see those because they're above my view. Remember how we talked about things can be above your view, and sometimes you aren't going to see the tops of where those letters go, okay? So the next thing on your order of operations in your notes is vertical and horizontal lines. I'm going to do my horizontal lines right here, okay? So I'm going to cut off the bottom of my W, but that does not mean that I'm done. Okay, if you notice there's a line here, that's because now I have to make these lines that match here from here. Okay, so if I kind of scooch this over, I have a line there, and I'm going to match this one right here. Okay, so then what you do for a nice clean perspective project is you don't have those orthogonal lines going all the way to the vanishing point. Now you just have a nice floating W, okay? But it's right above the vanishing point, so you're not going to see anything on the left or right of it because it's literally right above it, okay? Now O's, those are similar to any circles you've done before, so remember I think about the moon, so I'm going to go till my ruler hits right on that edge, okay? And then since it's like a moon, I'm going to go up here to the top, right? Now, depending on where I put this curve, okay, I'm not going to make it too thick, okay, I would actually see inside of here, so this line, this imaginary line, if it was see-through, would continue like this, because it would touch imaginary, like through, like that, right? So you can kind of see how it would kind of turn. So you would actually have a line right here to show the inside. So if I erase these parts, okay. Now again, I shouldn't have drawn all the way to the vanishing point, but it's habit. Now I can erase this, and now I have my O in perspective. And remember, perspective means it's getting smaller. It's not just a regular O. Okay? All right, let's try the P. So I'm going to be able to see the right side of the P. Okay, so a P has curves and points. So in this particular case where I drew my P, I would be able to draw a line all the way to here. But just like the moon, oh, I see a corner right there too. So we're going to do right there. Draw a line, not through though. Okay, I'm going to rotate to the edge of my letter P. I'm going to just draw a line part of the way because I don't want to draw all the way anymore. Boop, boop. Okay, so I've got 3 spots now, okay? I cannot draw from here or it would go through the letter P, but I can draw from right here, okay? So now you have to copy the curves, either horizontal, vertical, or copy the curve. If it's rounded, I'm going to curve it here. This line, you have to show the inside of the letter P and then curve. And then right here, you've got to show, again, my ruler, by the way, is vertical, so make sure your rulers are vertical. So I've got that part. So then, if I erase and erase and erase, I now have a nice letter P with my orthogonal lines erased, okay? All right, now these ones are going to be different because you're not going to see the right side. You're going to see the left side, okay? So in this case, when I'm drawing my E, I'm not going to draw all the way to the vanishing point. I'm going to start with these top 2 right here, okay? And let's see, I can draw to this one. I can't do this one. Can't do that one because it's on, but I can do a little bit of that one, just a hair, okay? And then this is my vertical line because that's the next step. Okay. And then under here, I would actually have a very tiny horizontal line based on how mine looks, because you can see above it and a very tiny line right there. So you would only have a little tiny bit based on where my E is. Okay, so we can't forget, sometimes you'll see under, sometimes you'll see over, because this part is above the horizon line and this part happens to be below. And it's not a circle, so it looks a little bit different. Okay, for an R, it's kind of like a P. It doesn't have just points, it has curves. Okay, so we're going to go to our vanishing point. We're practicing not drawing all the way. I can't go from here because it would be through. I can't go from here, or it would also be through, but I can go from right here and draw a line. Okay, and then not here or here, but I can go from the edge of the top of my R. See, it kind of disappears like a little moon. Okay, and I can go from this corner of my R. Okay, so now I see a vertical line right here, so I'm going to scooch my ruler out and make sure my ruler's nice and straight. And then this part is curved. Okay, now there's a piece missing. Okay, it would be the inside. Just like on the O, it's imaginary, right? So you do have kind of an inside of where your letter would come from, right? So you have a curve of where it would be. So it's going to curve from out here, and you would have a curve right here. So that's kind of where the inside of your little R would go, because it's kind of thick. And this side, I don't think you'll be able to see in there. But now we've got an R, so for Panther Power. Okay? I'm trying to think. Let's see, we could do another shape. You've done a star, a heart, you did that amazing lightning bolt on your practice. I want to do, let's do an odd shape. Okay? Let's try an odd shape, kind of maybe like a puzzle piece. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a line here. I'm going to do just a little puzzle piece. Boop. And then we'll make this a corner piece. There's our little corner piece. How's that? So this has points and curves and more curves. And it's over here to the right. Okay? So at this point, again, we're going to practice. Now I'm going to start drawing lighter with my orthogonal lines, because I don't really like how at the very beginning I drew dark, and you can see those on a final project. You're not going to want to see that. Okay? So when you're drawing, okay, again, we start with a shape, right? We don't want to start with a line. We start with a shape, and we start at our corners first. And I'm going to lightly draw my pencil line. Okay? Now I can see another corner here, so I'm going to make it go to the vanishing point and lightly draw. I'm not going all the way. Okay, I can't draw from like my curves because it would be like in the middle. That'd be weird, but I can draw from here, lightly. From here, lightly. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't do that part. I do see a little corner here. And then I get down to the bottom of this puzzle piece. It's a curve like an O or a P or an R. So there's a curve on the outside, not an inside curve. So I can do a one there. And it looks like the last one would be right here. Okay? So next, per the order of operations, are any vertical or horizontal lines, which we do have some vertical. So I'm just going to scooch this over, and my ruler is straight, you can tell from the side of my paper. And I'm going to draw a line here and here, because those two are vertical. Now, for this part, right, you can see this curve happening. So I'm going to copy this curve like this, right? We're going to copy our curve. So this goes in and then curves around, right? And then this one goes horizontal. So I know my ruler, compared to the paper, right, is horizontal because this line is horizontal. It's not curved like this, okay? But then this piece, so I just drew here, now I'm to here, I'm going to curve that. and then you can't really see over there, but you would have a horizontal line if it stuck out further. So then I can erase my extras, and it looks like a floating puzzle piece going far, far away. Okay? So, we've got a couple letters, P-O-W-E-R, going to the vanishing point in the middle. We got a little puzzle piece. Let's try one more shape. Let's do, let's just do a blob with a point and a lot of blob more. I don't know. That's a weird blob. You pick your own blob shape with a point. Okay? Now this one's kind of right below, so we're only going to see the top of it. So if I were to take my weird blob shape with my singular point, okay, and take my ruler, remember if it's a curve, and I'm going to draw light, we're practicing, I can't go from like the middle of a curve, but I can go from the edge. I can't, that's not really, that's a curve, so it's not a point. I'm not going to put anything there. There is a point right here, so I can go lightly. I can't go from here, or it would go through. Let's see, I can go maybe from this edge right there, and then definitely from this edge down here, but nowhere through there. So I've lightly got those lines. Now, I'm just going to copy the curves. So these are not vertical and horizontal. I'm just copying the curve. So I'm going to copy this line, and then I can use my ruler here because that's a straight kind of diagonal line. Okay, I'm going to copy this line, and then I'm going to copy that line. So now I have a perspective weird shape. I don't know what it is. Could be a ghost. Could be something. It looks like a little ghost saying, please give me candy. Okay, so tomorrow you're going to have a quiz. You're going to be asked to draw letters in 1 point perspective and boxes in 1 point perspective and other shapes like circles. So the goal is I want to see clean lines. I want all of your shapes to look like this one, where the orthogonal lines are erased so they don't show up like this. Okay, I want to practice doing nice clean lines. Okay, so you can study, you can keep practicing, and I'm going to meet with small groups. Okay.